So is the translator online?
Oui.
We're good to go?
Okay.
Okay. Donc, bonsoir. Nous excuses pour ce défi technique. Des fois, ça arrive. Anyway, de ce côté-là. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à notre réunion du 18 septembre. Je tiens seulement à noter que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire traditionnel et non cédé des peuples Mi'kmaq. Monsieur Greffier, nous avons le quorum. Attends, nous sommes tous là. Translation's working, Harry? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. So, I'll do both. Anyway, j'essaierai. On a peut-être encore un défi de traduction. Ah, la traductrice en ligne, that's bon signe. But still not working? Not yet. Je traduis. Elle dit qu'elle traduit. Yeah, Murray do. Je peux essayer de tenter de parler un petit peu, juste pour vérifier. Est-ce que la traduction fonctionne? Harry, you're not getting anything at all. You're getting the but not translated? You're in French. OK. So, ils m'entendaient en français, mais ils n'entendaient pas la traduction. On est presque là, en théorie. Je vais leur donner un autre 2 minutes. Dites-moi s'il faut que je fasse un test.
One, two, three. Apparently you are not hearing me on the interpretation line. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. Hit 1, 2, 3. Checking interpretation line on the English channel. Is anyone hearing me on the English channel? Is anyone hearing me on the English channel? It's the second interpreter.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear the translation?
Huh?
So it's.
Go ahead, Murray.
I can hear you on
English. Oh, perfect. Okay. So you can hear the translation on the English channel, right?
Non, est-ce que ça semble fonctionner?
So it seems to be working now?
Ça semble fonctionner. Parfait.
Okay, good.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
On va le mettre constat du quorum.
So we do have a quorum. Conflict of interest declaration. Are there any council members who would like to declare a conflict of interest on some items on the agenda? Seeing none, well, thank you. Adoption of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you as amended earlier today. I move the adoption by the Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Joël Després. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Minutes. We have the minutes of the meeting held on September 5th, 2 weeks ago, essentially. I would need a motion to adopt the minutes, moved by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. Questions on the minutes, errors, omissions, anything at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, too quick.
The RCMP presentation, is that available in writing?
He gave a verbal report. He didn't provide anything in writing at the time, even after the meeting, I don't think. No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Donc, tous en faveur, on dira oui.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, another question. Councillor Janice said I look really quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It just reminded me like the RCMP previously, they were giving us reports every 3 months in writing. I'm not sure, I think it would be important to provide us a written report every 3-4 months, just so the public can have access to those reports. I would believe those reports are created not by the local detachment, but they are created by the head office in Fredericton Wildcat, sort of. Maybe we should check with them that we receive it once the report is ready. All in favor signify saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Thank you. Public presentation. So we have a few. We have 2 members of the public, 2 consultants that we retain their services. So Mr. Emery Landry is here in the room. If you can get to the podium, Mr. Landry, if you would like to mention something about tourism and signage in town, usually in the bylaw, you have 5 minutes usually. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to address you. For those who don't know, my name is Emery Landry. I'm a former councillor and I'm a former mayor, for 21 years. Not remember, you might call me a pioneer because I was in the council in the mid-70s and in the 80s, a while back. And I was a councillor. Might be some of you who were very young. I talk to the council once a year. It's not often. It's when there are things that I find unfair, and maybe that councillors they may be overlooked. Then I come here and address the council. One of the things I would like to mention: everyone was drinking water bottles and spend millions of dollars to have good water, and we're bragging this water. And another one, it was because people like the signs and the town for the works they were only in English, and we're saying we're a bilingual town. In the years I was there, a lot of people were saying, why don't we have for the Quebecers that move from here, they all go to the Acadian Peninsula. So what are we doing or not doing? So there's some individuals, they got organized and went to Rimouski, Rivière-du-Loup, and for different tourist places. And they told us, we do not feel welcome in your town. You are like an Anglophone region. So we took note of this, and then we came back to Shediac. We said, well, they did not feel welcome, so we will put some signs and we will welcome you. They said Shediac is a Francophone town and you are welcome. So we install big signs welcome to the town of Shediac, welcome to Shediac, like the world lobster capital. And for several years it was there, so people coming in, they felt welcome. Today, I feel what? I don't know how I feel. I feel like Shediac. I don't know what I'm feeling. There are two words we cannot change: welcome and like. I'm welcome. I'm welcome in Shediac, and I love you. I love my town, and I feel welcome. So we need to have those two words. I feel, and je me sens in French. Last summer, as many of you know, I have a few rooms in my house I rent, like the tourists. 90% of the people coming here, they are from Quebec. They're Quebecers. So I did like a little survey. So you went. So I asked them, like, we were on Route 15, or you came back from Magdalen Islands or PI. So you saw like big signs. So what did you saw on those signs? They said, well, those signs doesn't mean anything. Like, I feel. What does it supposed to mean? We don't know, because you have this on your signs. If you want, like, if you want to represent the town of Shediac, so you have a say in this, and the merchants are the one, like, maybe they are the motor of the town of Shediac. But certainly we have to keep the people, the person who came here and convince you, like a marketing company of some kind, they convince you. So I think they make money out of you, like those people, because I cannot believe that the word like, or a while back, like I came to the town council of Shediac, and someone took my hand and said, Emery, as a former councillor of the town of Shediac, you're always welcome here. And do I feel? I felt welcome. I was welcome as a former councillor. So the word welcome is already there. So why are we changing it? Are there any specific reasons? I'm not aware of those reasons. So I asked some councillors, what are the reasons? Why did you change that? No one could tell me like the real reason. So I worked for the government, the province of New Brunswick, for many years. I was like the supervisor, like for the Parley Beach. It was assigned like to Parley Beach. It's not like feel like Parley Beach. You're welcome. You're welcome to the beach. These are things. The word welcome, it's a word that we should not change. So there are some synonyms, like acronyms that we can take, but the word welcome, we cannot change it. Are we welcome or not? It's one or the other, like it's not the two. Either we're welcome or we're not welcome. So welcome to the Shediac Festival, yes or no? Yes, we like the Shediac Lobster Festival. Do we like the tourists, the town of Shediac? Yes or no? Are you welcome or you're not? So these are things that we have to tell them. We should not imagine anything else, and we have to tell them. We have to say what we want to do. And I talk like to many of you, and you discuss amongst you. Mr. Boudreau, so when you arrive at town of Shediac, did you felt welcome? I'm sure. I have to say today, like, welcome to the town of Shediac. I'm happy, like, you took the decision to become the manager, CEO for the town of Shediac. Welcome to people who were not there a couple of years ago, like Pointe du Chêne, Shediac, Cape, Scodoc, and etc. Be welcome to share with the town of Shediac, like the good thing that would happen in town of Shediac. We are a town. We are a very vibrant town. Not only we are the town, like the most prosperous town of the province. So when the TV and the newspapers say like Shediac got more construction than St. John, like a city of a few of a thousand, 100,000 people. What does it tell you? There's someone doing a great job, and you're certainly doing some good, great work here. But we should keep in mind there's another thing. Like there are tourists. People want tourists in Shediac. At the same time, so we have the federal government. We're over 7 minutes. I would like to thank you, like, for your comments. So we understood, like, so when they were coming to Shediac, so all those people, we welcome them. Do not forget, like, the word welcome. Thanks for this point, and thanks for listening to me. Thank you. You're welcome. Well, have a good evening. I know, like, those signs have been there for at least 5 years, maybe 6 years. I think it was a process at the time. I know they just came in like a couple of weeks ago, but that's a good point. For the agenda, next item is Mr. Jacinthe Villeneuve. She wanted to talk about the something in your neighborhood. Good evening, Mrs. Otis. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I would like to mention of the item 7.2 is the request to buy like a parcel of land that was a public utility, so we could. So this parcel was supposed to be a park, and now they would like to build like new dwellings. I would just to remind you, like about 3 weeks ago, hundreds of people came in and they told us the reason why they were proud to live and why they moved to Shediac. It was all the aspect of the little coastal town, like this green spaces, nature. So I would like to get back and ask you please to remember like these comments and to consider them when you will take decision. The citizens, some citizens like travel, they came here with their children to explain, yes, like public spaces are important for us. We will always find a way of making money, and also, but way of rebuilding land is not possible. I think we have to be strategic, and I'm asking of all those proposals to build and build again. Do they really make like the vision of our town, the vision of the economic development, like the urban planning? What is that vision? What is our plan? What is the strategy, the motor, and how it will benefit our citizens? And finally, I'm taking the opportunity, like many of my citizens, and I feel uncomfortable, like to mention this. Many of the citizens, they wrote on social media, talked to us. They did not want to do it in person because they had little hope that things would change, like that they would be heard. Many citizens, like they did not agree, like the way, like the town administration is doing things, because and they think there's a lack of transparency. I think it's a good opportunity, and you will have other great opportunities to tell them that you're listening to them, that you are considering their opinion, their concerns, and that the development of the town, like for the next 20, 30 years, what will happen in our town, how the economy will develop, the projects, the quality of life, and people who are living here and their children, that their opinions will matter, and that Shediac will remain a place where people will want to live and grow, and finally, like to benefit the town. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Merci, bonne soirée.
Thank you, and have a good evening. For the next item, 6.3, the net zero project phase 2. So we have two individuals who are presenting. So first, from Smart Grid Innovation Network, so SGIN. Voila.
Is it Terry, right?
Terry.
We haven't met. So, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, and thank you for welcoming me tonight. I'll wait for the presentation to load. Essentially, the Smart Grid Innovation Network is a nonprofit organization that has a mandate to help communities in New Brunswick become net zero as part of an overarching goal, and that's why I'm here tonight. I'll give you a brief overview of SGIN and then talk a little bit about the net zero project and how we've come to start working with Shediac and looking at pursuing this project. So I'm going to the next slide, sure. So essentially, SGIN Canada, again, like I mentioned, nonprofit organization. There are many facets to the organization. There is a large knowledge hub for electrification across Canada and what we need to get there. Energy trade advisory and looking at whether or not certain organizations can do.
You can roll it back.
Sorry,
there you go.
Yeah. As well as some policy and influence across Canada in terms of what needs to be done to actually electrify Canada as a whole. The latest project is Electrification 4.0. So Electrification 4.0 is a project that we received funding from ACOA to actually work within the province of New Brunswick to actually help this province specifically electrify. In that project itself, we have 4 major work streams, of which some have multiple projects. There's basically the benefication of electrification work stream, of which I'm here for tonight. There's a grid edge implementation work stream, community sort of collaboration network work stream, as well as a knowledge hub, which all of our components of all our projects have a knowledge hub as well. But within the benefication and electrification, we have 2 core mandates. One is to work with the province as a whole to look at policy, look at how we can actually improve energy resiliency in the province, as well as electrification as a whole. And then more specifically, and specifically to the town of Shediac, we have a mandate to help 5 communities achieve net zero. And so that actually is not just for the province of New Brunswick. It's actually is supposed to establish a model that can be then used to leverage, support other organizations or other communities across Canada to also achieve net zero. So in New Brunswick, we are trying to basically work with 5 different communities, and we want them to be very diverse. We want communities who have a very solid plan and a path to get there. We want Indigenous communities. We want large municipalities, as well as other types of municipalities who may have technology maybe on the road, but may not have everything they need to actually get there, which is where Shediac lies. You have an excellent opportunity to actually work with the Smart Grid Atlantic project. You have lots of technology deployed. You have a vision that's somewhat there, but you went a different path than what traditionally is done. Traditionally, it's what's our plan to get there and how are we going to get there? You had an influx of technology and projects. And so now it's what do we actually need to achieve net zero for the town of Shediac?
Okay.
So SGIN within that particular project, we had basically provide a concierge type service to the variable municipalities that we work with. Every municipality is going to need a different set of services. And as a result, that model can then be used for different municipalities across Canada. So we provide things like program management, governance enablement. And when I talk about governance here, it's project governance, not municipal governance, obviously. Resource needs assessments, risk and issue management, and funding opportunity assessment. So we actually identify funding that's required to actually get the project done, find stacking of funds where you can actually achieve the ability to have funds from multiple organizations without causing any conflict, which is actually extremely difficult. So we've been working with your town now for a little while, trying to find funding. We've worked to the point where we have funding for this next phase of work, which is to provide assessments for the town in terms of what's needed to get to net zero, which is what Giles will talk about next from Siemens.
Okay.
So our proposal for the town was to provide that project management support, like I said, to get the project on the right foot, get it up and running, to set up the tools and the program governance to actually achieve this, define the roles and responsibilities, support the town in terms of actually what needs experience is needed to actually run the actual project and program, not just to actually get it there, but actually sustain it long term, as well as identify, like I said, funding opportunities, support scoping and providing of the actual resources that are needed to do it, whether they're internal, external, third-party providers, and have a host of third-party providers who can do the different types of work that will need to be done over the next few years. So you don't have to go through as significant of a vetting process. You'd have suppliers who are already vetted, what have you.
Okay.
And then, of course, liaise with anyone else who's on the project, whether that be a third party brought in, some of your own internal staff, other experts, the community as well, large building owners, things like that in the community. So SGIN is basically here to support the town of Shediac to get to net zero with essentially 50% dollars. Mr. Boudreau and some others I've worked with already have all the financials about the project and what it's going to cost, and as well as the funding that we've already secured in place for the town.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Okay. Good overview in that regard. Questions? Questions? Councilor Boudreau.
Yeah, just one question. Where does this come from? Is this a recommendation from staff, or is there, why this presentation this evening? Is this a complimentary of the smart grid? I see Danny on top of his head over there. Is that?
This is, yes, it's complementary of the Smart Grid Atlantic project we're on. This is kind of like your phase 2. So what is the next level? Where does Shediac want to go? So definitely we're having those conversations with the ones that organize the project with us, with NB Power also is involved. So at this stage here, there's opportunities, and this is why Terry and Siemens is here to talk to you a bit about. And we presented this to you, I think, back in July, I do believe it was.
July 12th.
July 12th. So it's just a continuing of the conversation that we had with council concerning the approach to create a pad for net zero for the municipality.
Okay. Is there any cost to the town? Budget deliberations in a few weeks. Is there something that we should know beforehand?
Yeah, well, we can. There's definitely, we can talk about that. Currently, there's a cost of the project total. It's a $247,000 project. We're currently asking for funding from 2 different tiers of government. The stake so far for the municipality might be in the range of 10%, which is about $25,000 to create the plan, which would bring this PAT and create a PAT so we could move forward on it. Now, the role that SGIN is playing currently is a very important role, is to connect all the liaisons with all the government programs and whatnot. So they're crucial into this, is moving forward. We need to have SGIN at the table. It is their field of work. So,
Merci, Danny.
Bienvenue.
Thank you.
Expert. Thank you much, Terry. Good to meet you. Now we have a presentation from Siemens Canada, and Giles, I think. You've been here before, I think, at this council meeting, or at least you've been in Shediac a number of times before.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, Mayor Casey, City Council, staff, and officials. Appreciate the time tonight. Je suis désolé que mon français ne soit pas assez bon pour faire mon présentation.
I apologize for my French not being good enough to do my presentation in French, but I've been speaking French for a while. I understand really well. So if there are any questions in French, I will try my best to answer them.
So I want to just provide a bit of an overview of some of the proposed work and some of the, I guess, the outcomes that we would expect from doing it. As was mentioned, along with SJN, Siemens would be a key partner in this and have worked extensively over the past, I think, 4 or 5 years with the town on Smart Grid Atlantic. So it is kind of a continuation of that and kind of a fulfilling of some of the vision that the town's had since the outset. Sorry, I'm just flipping through here. I see I missed one slide. So just at the outset, in terms of, Siemens organization, you might think of us as building trains or MRIs or something in your electrical cabinet. We do have a fairly significant consulting group around the world. I think we have 20 different offices, 200 consultants. We work with governments, we work with utilities, we work with industry on topics ranging from how do we expand our electrical system, what types of policies are conducive to achievement of net zero and sustainability goals, grid modernization, industrial electrification, a really wide range of topics. And very often we collaborate with different offices around the globe to bring in unique expertise for specific projects. And we would be expecting to do some of that on this initiative. But we do have a base right here in New Brunswick as well, and extensive experience with the town and with NB Power in particular. So a lot of the work that we do with municipalities are helping them become smart cities or smart towns. And although technology is a key enabler there, that's not really what a smart city is. A smart city is one that recognizes challenges and opportunities that are presented to it, that has the insights, the goal, and the vision about where they want to be and how they want to tackle those types of challenges, and then develop the insights and the knowledge and the plans in order to make sound decisions, specifically around those long-term investments, whether it's in people or equipment or policies to realize that. So in working with the town, I think Shediac 1 has the vision to be the first net zero community in Canada. I think it's very kind of forward looking, and as with the work that's been done in Smart Grid Atlantic. So here are just a few of those sort of key pillars of what would make a smart city. Resiliency, not just in terms of climate, which is probably one of the big concerns here now, and one of the things we are trying to mitigate with our work in Smart Grid Atlantic. It's also, resilient to any kind of economic shocks or changes that might come. So developing that workforce, that expertise, that knowledge base, the reputation is definitely along those lines. In terms of the technology, creating the environment that's conducive to business, to speed through processes, leveraging it where it's possible to provide better services. Quality of life is something, Shediac has in spades. Having a cottage here for 45 years, I can definitely speak to that aspect. And it's one of those key things why people are moving here, and a responsibility of the council to maintain. And then the one we're really talking about here is around sustainability, which is becoming more important day by day, both in terms of the specific impacts on the community, but also for businesses that are looking to locate here or families looking to move here. It's a key thing that people are now prioritizing in those decisions, and what this project is looking to further. Sorry, I'm not good with the wheel mouse. So in terms of the approach, I don't want to get into all the words on this, but we have delivered a lot of similar projects to various sizes of municipality around with a bunch of different kind of outcomes. I attached a couple case studies at the end of the presentation that were relevant to, I think, what we're looking to do here. I deleted about 10 that I thought might are just, belabor the whole issue. But in terms of the approach that we're proposing, really there's sort of three main phases. And the discovery and baselining phase, that's really where we would come in and work with the town and other stakeholders to establish, one, what are the emissions that the town would be or the community would be accountable for, or would be under the purview of something that could be actioned against. With that, I think we might have already submitted an RFI around probably close to 100 different metrics that we can use to kind of quantify that and really look at what is the makeup of the town in terms of the demographics, the makeup of business, like what types of buildings are here. We do have tools and certain technologies that we can do estimations of those things, but driving and traffic patterns, all those things that would help us really get a really good profile of the community and understand where those opportunities might be and what types of interventions might be done. A lot of work will go into that first phase. Having worked closely with MB Power, there's a whole section on energy, which we can trace down there. But around building stock, obviously what the town has under their own control, that's where we'll really need to be collaborative and probably creative in some ways about how do we set those values so that we can use them and measure them going forward. Because at the end of the day, this is all an exercise of trying to quantify this and measure your progress. So once we have that, we do, again, have different models and tools that would take objectives. Again, key thing we'd established at the beginning. So being a net zero community is a really good high-level statement, but what does that mean? What does it mean for the town? What is the outcome at the end of it that you want to be able to, hold up and say, this is now what our plan is going to help us achieve. So having that written, documented, and agreed upon is really important for going forward longer term. So in that middle phase, it's really taking those objectives, the prioritizations, running through some different scenarios, looking at different interventions that can be done, and modeling that out from both a technical but also an economic lens. and a whole socioeconomic lens to develop what is the best model for the town of Shediac. And then finally, again, at the end of that, we would develop a document, presentations, and deliver those and educate people within the town and other stakeholders as to what does that actually mean. But we would have, the investment rationale, the actual dollars, the timeline, proposed plan. And again, it's a plan and a roadmap. It's not something that is going to be immediately actionable, but those key milestones and actions would all be identified in there for consideration. So just to give a little idea about the different range of options, obviously, when we're looking at energy, transportation, the actual energy supply, and your built environment, which would be the residential building stock, commercial building stock, and industrial, there's opportunities across all of those different areas to both reduce emissions and also potentially reduce costs. Being sustainable doesn't have to be just a costly exercise. And in many cases, there can be cost savings if there are things that aren't being done efficiently, or if there's a way to engage other stakeholders in the furtherment of those goals. Also looking at kind of waste and waste treatment and how that's managed. Up in the left, it's a little bit around digitalization. Those would be more solutions, but these would be some of the areas, and some of them on here maybe not relevant to Shediac, but when we consider how are we going to get there, these are just a representation of some of the types of things that we'd be looking at, evaluating and exploring, and then developing. So what we do then is, once we've agreed as to what measures are feasible, both from a cost and from what makes sense in Shediac, we then extend those out over different planning horizons and introduce those at different stages. So it's not like we start everything at once. We would develop a plan that made sense from, okay, well, the first thing we need to do is, build an educated workforce and implement some of these things, or we want to tackle the energy supply and resiliency, again, depending on those goals. One might be around, again, ensuring a reliable electrical supply during the late summer months when we have lots of tourists here, most economically possible, or ensuring that being, a lot of people traveling to and from Moncton, that our transportation options are as low emitting as possible. So again, that's a view to the future around and again, it just sort of illustrates the different major kind of buckets and dimensions that we would typically tackle in those exercises. And at the end of the day, at the beginning, we're going to quantify what the emissions targets are and where do we want to be by what time frame. And as you can see there, this is a very high level summary of how you then might get there. So it's not one silver bullet that's going to get us to net zero or say now our community is. Again, there could be policy measures, there could be technology, but what we would do is look to, again, quantify those in terms of the potential reduction, when it could be achieved, and also the financial implications of choosing those measures over the whole timeline of the roadmap. And that's it. I won't go through these. The print is too small for me to read from this distance, but I would encourage you to take a look through those. And if you're interested in any others, we have quite a few that we could share. So open the floor to questions en français ou anglais.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. It's a lofty goal in terms of being getting to net zero, but with the success that we've had with the smart grid, the smart energy community, which I actually interviewed last week before the hurricane. But again, which it just keeps on having that positive spin. So that was fun in that regard. But this is going to the next step in that regard. So not many communities in New Brunswick have the opportunity. We have a leg up in quite a few. So the idea is let's keep on trucking, in that regard. Although trucking responsibly. Conseil Paul Boudreau.
Ask this exact same question, Danny. It comes from staff. This seems to be a very good project. Is that?
Peux-tu rapprocher ton micro, Danny?
Yep. go ahead, Councilor Dan.
Definitely, we initiated the conversations with the Smart Grid Atlantic because we needed to know what was the next steps. Because, as we're approaching the end of the research project, will be in 2024, and it is our role to ask questions about opportunities. And definitely, this is a great opportunity for town council to take a look at. To be able to be, we're one of the few communities that have the size of solar farm we do have currently. So we just wanted to continue the opportunities and look forward to moving this initiative to the next phase. So we did a bit of research with Siemens, with NB Power, and also with SGIN, and here we are today with this initiative to create a PAT moving forward. Now, when the PAT is if council desires to give the mandate and move forward, once the PAT has been identified, there's going to be a lot of questions coming in. Where does the money come from to be able to follow that path? And definitely we can't answer those questions today. So just to make sure, Paul, I don't know if you're going in that direction, Councillor Boudreau, but once the plan is built, then we can identify where the source of fundings will be coming from and also who are the partners, and then we'll be able to bring this back to you. But at the end of the day, you have full control and full responsibility of saying no or yes, move forward or not move forward. So we're bringing this project to you today.
It seems to be a small time frame. I saw your Stoke-on-Trent in the UK, but a year's work. A lot of stakeholders you mentioned here, wastewater and NB Power. Is that feasible? Is that realistic to have the full report in 1 year? For Danny and his staff to implement? And
it's a good question, Councillor Boudreau. We asked the same question, and they presented the team to us. They have doctors from around the world working on this. They have one of the largest team that we looked at and said, well, and they have similar projects that they've done around the world that Jal was bringing you some example here, a couple, he had 10 of them that he didn't want to showcase and brag all night and take all your time, but here we are today. So yes, we do feel confident they have the team to pull this together. Once the roadmap is done, then we'll present it to you. The next step to get the funding in place and move forward, we anticipate within a week or two. The team is on standby, and that's why we're pushing for this, because to be able to access those resources from India, UK, just a bit around the world, from what I understand. Am I correct?
Yep.
So for us to access all those resources, we need to move fast enough. So, bienvenue.
Thank you. I think that was basically the best type of summary we've got to done. Merci pour Conseil Boudreau.
Thank you, Councillor Boudreau.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. J'ai eu la chance de rencontrer ce monsieur-là.
So I had the opportunity to meet this good sir several times with Smart Cities Shediac. It's a new challenge. So, next, reading of correspondence. Request from the Shriners. Mr. Clerk, no, CAO. Thank you, Your Worship. You've seen the correspondence that we've received. Just to summarize it quickly, the Shriners, it's an organization, a non-profit organization, a fraternity, if you will, exists throughout the world. And we were approached by representatives of the New Brunswick chapter. Apparently, the Shriners, North American Shriners, would like to celebrate their annual meeting in 2025, not 2024, but in 2025, in Shediac, from June 6th to 8th. And two things that they're asking from the municipality, from the council, that they'd like to consider, obviously, because it's a gathering of Shriners throughout North America. There's some planning that's involved, and that's why the request came so early. They want to be able to promote it, and the idea would be that the two requests that they have before council is to declare the June 7th, 2025 as Shriners Day in Shediac, and also to allow the organization to have a parade that day Those of you, maybe you know the Shriners. They participate in parades in a lot of places. They have those mini cars and that kids really love. And the money that they collect mainly go to health-related causes for young people. A bit like IWK, but Shriners have hospitals like that in quite a few places. So the request to the council is that to declare June 7th, 2025 as Shriners Day in Shediac and to give them permission to organize a parade. The details still have to be negotiated, of course, after. But for this evening, that was the first step for planning for that organization. Well, that's great, Madam Deputy Mayor. You would like to propose? Yes, thank you, Your Worship. A request for whereas the Shriners in North America will meet in Shediac from the 6th to 8th of June 2025, whereas the Shediac Shriners want to organize a parade for the public on June 7th. Be it resolved that the council proclaim Saturday, June 7th, 2025 as Shriners Day in Shediac and grant permission to the Shriners to organize a parade on that date. I so move. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Poudreau, seconded by Councillor Emile O'Brien. Any questions? Well, thank you. As my button was pressed down, I understood, Mr. CAO. So the campground and all, not the campground, the compound that asking for 50 trailers. I lost a letter. That's all going to be organized. But we will certainly need to plan all logistics elements. If they're coming here, they have trucks and trailers that bring those little mini cars there. So they're looking at a safe place in the municipality to be able to store them while they are here. They're not going to live in the trailers. They're more something to haul those little. I said campground, but I meant to say compound. That's great. Thank you. Other questions? Not seeing anything. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much. So number 7.2, a request from Jacques Laforêt. Mr. CAO, thank you, Your Worship. You have seen the request from Mr. Laforêt representing AML Homes. Just to go back a bit here, in the story here, that subdivision, it started in 2014, I do believe. Following presentations made to the council of the time. In terms of the development of the subdivision, Domaine Beau Séjour, and as well as for Domaine des Faisans. And in both cases, according to our regulations, the developers have to either grant 10% of the land associated with the development for green spaces or parks to the municipality, or they can give a cash in lieu amount based on 8%, I think, of the value, if it is in money, in cash in lieu. In 2014, the council at the time chose to go with the 10% in terms of land for public use. And certainly the subdivisions have to be done before the municipality can take up projects to put in playgrounds or parks or anything like that. But the administration had in fact started planning for a park or a playground. Both subdivisions, in terms of the land granted for public use, they could touch each other. They're in the line that connect both developments. So you could develop a playground as well as a bit of end of trail, some trail from Jocelyn to Brobridge. There's preliminary work that had been started by the administration. It's already been started. It had already been started for a park eventually. Well, the subdivisions still have to be completed. So that the request by AML Homes would be to buy back a percentage, a portion of those lands from the town in exchange of cash in lieu. But since the administration had already started works in terms of establishing a park in the region, the recommendation was to refuse AML Homes' request. So you see the details in eScribe. If there are any further questions, we can certainly try to answer them. Thank you for the clarification. So the recommendation from the administration is to go ahead as foreseen before, when the development of subdivision will have been complete. Councillor Janice Cormier, will you be doing that resolution? Request from Mr. Laforêt. Whereas the town of Shediac accepted proposals that included lands for public use equivalent to 10% of this proposed subdivision for Domaine Beauséjour and Domaine des Faisans, dated June 30th, 2014, whereas no park or playground currently exists south of Brobridge Street, whereas the administration has already developed conceptual plans for a playground on the lands in question. Be it resolved that the council reject the offer from AML Homes Limited to convert a portion of the lands for public use that had been for cash in lieu. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Janice Galland. Questions on this proposal? Any questions on this proposal? It's a relatively simple item. All those in favor, in rejecting, indicate by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much. So, 7.3, Annual Congress of the Francophone Municipalities of New Brunswick from the 13th to the 15th of October. 7.3 and 7.4 are very similar. You have two municipal associations. We're part of both organizations. So the Francophone Association of New Brunswick Municipalities is meeting for its annual meeting from the 13th to 15th of October in Moncton. And the Union of Nova Scotia Municipalities in New Brunswick, their annual conference will happen from the 24th to the 26th of November in Fredericton. I just wanted to mention it to the councillors, for those of you who would be interested in participating. If I'm understanding correctly, in the past, we checked with the council to see how many would be interested in participating, and based on the budgets, if we have to draw straws, if there's more who want to participate and we have budget, we did a draw. It's just to bring forth both of those points to the attention of the council. So you can indicate your interest to the administration. Mid-October is the month. The other one's a bit further off. But look at your schedules and indicate, if you are interested, indicate it to the administration. Usually the mayor participates and 2 council members. But if 4 members of the council want to go, will be a draw. And if only 2 members or less who want to go to the meetings, basically there's no choice to be made and everybody gets to go who asked. Will there be simultaneous translation at these assemblies? Because we have councillors. There's a translation for U, M, and B, but for Francophone municipalities, I don't remember it. No. The Francophone Association, well, yes, it's a Francophone association. It operates in French, but the Union of Municipalities in New Brunswick operates in both languages. Shediac is a member of both associations, and that's why we can send delegates to both. Councillor Roland Cormier, thank you, Your Worship. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe the administration could check. When we were elected as new councillors, we read some documents And as I recall, maybe my memory fails me, but what I recall is that if the activity was in our region, 2 wasn't the magic number. It could be 3, could be 4, since it was in the region. But if I misunderstood or maybe I misread, I apologize. But your memory is correct. When it's an annual meeting that happens locally, usually the budget is for if it were to be outside, there's fewer hotels to pay and all that type of thing. It might allow more than 2 delegates, the usual 2 delegates. As I said, one of the 2 is in Moncton, the other's in Fredericton. Both are usually, oftentimes, both of them are outside of our region. Thank you. So, number 8, standing committees, nothing from the protective services, police, fire, but we do have a report on building permits. I know that Mr. CAO, you redid your presentation, the sort of poster you had. You want to go through it, the major highlights anyway? Well, I can go through the highlights. You have it before you. In the end of August, the first 8 months for this fiscal year, $97,765,000 in value in terms of permits. This is the first 3 quarters. The last quarter needs to be done this year. It's an extraordinary year. I don't think it'll be years like this every year. It'd be great if it was, but they've been extraordinary years. There's big projects, and we hope it'll continue. This will continue for a year or 2 in terms of construction. These projects are not all built in a single year. Sometimes it's 18 to 24 months of construction for larger projects. So I'm sharing that information. Well, to date, we have 163 building permits issued. The majority of permits, 126, are for residential. 21 permits are issued for multi-residential, multi-family dwellings. And we have 16 permits for commercial activities. The population residentially is increasing. This gives us tools to continue to work to try to attract the commercial sector to come develop here. The population will certainly increase the desire to offer more services, and we're heading in the right direction so far. So if you have any questions, I would be pleased to answer your questions. Great, thank you. So basically, by increasing the population, we increase the number of customers for businesses in the region. That's what they're looking for, whether you're a Shediac resident or not. Councillor Podboudreau. Yes, thank you, Danny. 2 questions. Via Présidence is in which category here? I pick up the information given. It was assessed as a commercial project via the commission. I'm asking the question, in my mind, I think it's more institutional in nature. They're basing it in the commercial sector, but the taxes on that property would be equivalent to in the commercial building, Councillor Boudreau. It's institutional. If I had a section where you could check institutional, as it stands in my report, I put it under commercial, just to clarify. Second question, is this for new Shediac, for Greater Shediac, Scoudouc, and Pointe-du-Chêne, etc.? Does it include all of the borders? That's a great question, Councillor Boudreau. We tried to divide it by the commission. They don't have the tools to divide it. All is included right now in the new entity of Shediac, former LSD of Pointe-du-Chêne, Shediac Road, and Scoudouc. And the whole entity of Shediac is now in the report. For me to be able to divide it up, it's not obvious. I need a map to see which street is what. I did some research with the commission to get those numbers. I'd like to have presented it to you a little more broken down, but I can't today. Thank you very much. Maybe such a division could be on an annual basis. Maybe that's possible by Plan 360. Just to add to what Danny was explaining, it's the province and the regional service commission that changed the methodology. We tried. We wanted to see the breakdown according to the four former local service districts and the former town of Shediac. As of 2023, no. It's all calculated as a whole based on the new local governance agreements. Okay, it's great. Councilor Mary Lloyd.
Danny, in this 97 million, is the new nursing home in this?
Yes, it is.
And what estimated value is that of the 97 million?
Well, I'll be able to be honest with you, out of the $45 million in value in commercial development permits, it's the bulk.
Thank you.
I can't really tell you an example, exact number.
Sounds good. You get an idea. Non, ben, merci beaucoup.
Well, thank you very much. 9, CAO report. It's once a month. It'll be to the next meeting. Recommendations for the Regional Service Commission of Southeast, Plan 360. No new recommendations for this evening. Unfinished business. Nothing foreseen for tonight. Number 13, request for info from the members of the council. If you have any questions on new items, I would imagine. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertrand. The house on Harper Street. Is that the one that we got that was possession? A question of possession? Is it Harper? That the town acquired? It was on King Street. What is happening with that? We thought about maybe doing something. Well, what's going on with the building? Well, the building will be demolished. We hope it will be demolished soon. Like many projects this summer, the rain caused delays for all of our entrepreneurs. But we've granted all the contracts for demolition of the building and to remove any contamination from this soil contamination. And if you recall, it was discussed at the council at some point the question of going into partnership with Habitat for Humanity. So that would be the next step. Once the land is ready, the land is not completely remediated yet, but all of the contracts have been granted, so work should happen soon. All right, Councillor Paul Boudreau next. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The 6 items, it's going to go fast. Then the 3 items, just to inform you, fellow council members, Nicole Boudreau, the son of Troy and Pierre Boudreau, was chosen as a goalies for the Charlton Islanders. It'd be nice, great if the town could recognize him as a lovely exploit for one of our young people. It's just to see if it's something that we can offer our congratulations. The representative of the Omar Festival, such great programming this year. That festival, it's by people and 4 people from Shediac are participated a lot. Congratulations, bravo, and Patricia and the town staff, and they chose the right weekend to do it. In terms of congratulating people, bravo to the mayor and councillor Lloyd for the town hall meeting in Shediac Cape, to the staff as well. It was clear, it was respectful. Congratulations on that initiative. It was really great. I'm anxious to see the others. The other 3 items, I will go quickly. I don't need answers tonight. Maybe later. We'll speak to Julie. For the trail, I know you're involved with the regional commission. There's a report coming up. I'm glad that they're coming to Shediac, the multifunctional trail. And eventually, what will be the role and the responsibility of the town for these projects? That will reach Greater Moncton area. It would be great to get a bit of a report, Victor or Julie, if they could provide that to us. And ball hockey, same thing. Julie's not here tonight. Just a summary. We voted to go forward. And where are we with the facility? Will it be in operation for this? So winter, what's lacking? I don't need the answer tonight, but you're looking for. I'm looking for an update. Yes. And finally, I saw there's a budget session coming in October. That's the most important exercise for the council. It gives directive to the council. I don't know if we could sit together, the council member, prior to that budgetary exercise to discuss the projects that we have in mind. I've always said that the budget is the council's budget. It's not the administration's budget. It's the council's budget and the people's budget, the citizens' budget. So if we could discuss our priorities, not show up there and not to doing last minute changes and to find out what an item cost. 75th anniversary of the festival is coming up. We don't need to talk about numbers. We can talk about what we as members of the council would like to see coming up in 2024. It would give directives to staff so that they can kind of stir the pot. Not sure what I'm looking for to see. I don't know if it's possible to do this or if it's a method that where we can contact the director and the staff in terms of what our vision and mission for 2024 is. What do you think about that? Victor and Sylvain, your worship.
Mr. Mayor.
Personally, I'd like, when I was former director, I did it.
Director, I would do it. They told me what they wanted to see, like on the 2024 budget. If you allow me, so we could discuss maybe quickly about the process. And that's why we discussed with the council members to see where the council members would be available. So we want to find like and it's difficult, but us internally, well, with the administration, we already started like the budget process for 2024. So the idea for the rest of September and the good part of October, it would be to do the work with the administration. And so we have a budget like over $18 million to manage. It's to see what we could have like as a draft, and also while considering like the decision for the council for the last year. But there will be some sessions where, well, each department director will present their department to the council at a public meeting, and it's also open to the public, and also to give the council the opportunity like to ask questions, bring some suggestions, and also offer some kind of modification. So the administration gets back to the draft table and then comes back with a more final budget for your approval. So the reason we started so early, Councilor Boudreau, like the province changed a little bit like their method of doing things. And they want to have the budgets before. So the deadline like for the proposed budget is November 15th. So we are starting this thing, it goes backwards, and we're allowing some time for the administration so we can do like its initial work, and then we can present to the council members and have this interaction, because ultimately, well, you are adopting the budget. But we'll try to do like most of the work for you. But I think each director will present it. You will have the opportunity to act on it now, and there will be also certainly be some adjustment to do, and then we'll go back with a final decision, final version, so we can present it to the government like before November 15th. So we spent like the comments, like the province also requires for a specific. We get like the information for the province, like the assessment, and then another factor that like the RCMP. it can have an impact, like the budget, because they provided the tax base before that date last year. And last year, well, the transition committee adopted the budget in the province because of the change of structure. So they were able, but before, previously it was always the December 15th, but the 8th finally we got things, and we had a few days just to confirm, but the rest was the detail, but the offer, at least like the management had an idea what to expect, but it's the same, but it's just to present it. It's not to Robertson the budget. They're telling us we'll get like the numbers from the province, but we did not get them yet. It should be coming soon.
Councillor Lloyd.
Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of thanks to yourself, the CAO, and to administrative staff who showed up for the first town hall meeting last week. It was appreciated. It showed interest in the area of after amalgamation, that we were interested in their concerns. One concern developed that is a problem for me. The RCMP officer that attended our meeting at last meeting said that they attended all the schools on the opening day of school. I was questioned by a couple of constituents that there was no RCMP attended at Shediac School. Now, please, I'm getting this secondhand. I don't know where to go on this. Should I go to Protective Services, or should I go to the CAO who can contact the RCMP?
Yeah, I think we can make a...
Yeah, we can certainly follow up with the RCMP and ask, either for an explanation or more clarifications. I know there was an earlier question, regarding reports from the RCMP. I've been here for 6 months now. I've never seen a written report. They've always given them verbally, but I will follow up on the reports, and I can certainly ask them for more clarification on the Shediac Cape School as well.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Conseiller Peter Bro.
Oui, il y avait deux points. Un point, c'était...
I had 2 points. Like one point was the congratulations for the Lobster Festival. And the other thing, well, we know our trails also, they're more and more used like by bicycles, and it's something that is recommended. And I have several people who walks, like they said that comment that several bicycles do not have a bell. Like I know some places like those bells are mandatory, but I think we should put them mandatory for the safety of our walkers, because those bells are not expensive at all. I would even recommend that we purchase like some of the bells, because I know they're not expensive. So if we want for the file to go quickly, I think Julie's department would provide bells to people who do not have one already. Because if we're walking quite fast, and it's a very minimal cost, it's to encourage people to bicycle. So Mr. Clerk, in our communication director, just told me there's an article also in the guide that will come out on this. So it's especially with e-bikes, I think they speed a little bit more like on our trails. And we understand like it's more popular now, and we see more before, because previously it was something that was not common. It was also something like a different could we ask like Julie's department to check how much it would cost like to purchase so then we could make maybe a recommendation. Julie can certainly look at this, and our CEO is taking note of this. Councillor Renaud Cormier, thank you, Mr. for bells is certainly a good idea, Councilor Bro. But there's a challenge with the bells. There's a lot of our citizens, like they are wearing like earpods, and I'm one of those, like I go on the trails and I have a bell. And it's not easy, even if you have a bell, because people, they're listening to something else and they can listen probably to whatever they want. It was a point I would like to make. The other point I would like to make, the last meeting we had asked you like to do like to approach like the politicians on a specific subject. And I would like to know if it happened or not. We got a few discussions and I'm hoping to meet, I know I'm meeting with, I wanted to meet the two of them at the same time, like a little bit of conflicts of schedule. I think my schedule, but to me, this file, like the one we're talking, it's a file that it's dear to my heart. And we have at least to try to solve this problem to tackle this file. And I spoke with the individuals we're supposed to talk to, and certainly they are ready, like to give us a hand, like if they're asked by you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm hoping like it will be one, since you have a little bit more time. I'm hoping like I was supposed to be elsewhere like during the week, so it was canceled. I'm hoping it's one of your priorities. And if you cannot find any time in your schedule, I'm hoping like my mandate, like Mr. CEO, I will meet the MLAs with my CEO, and I'm looking forward like to get like the follow up on what's happening. It will be a pleasure to give it to you.
Councilor McElroy.
Councilor McElroy.
On June 28th, the council directed staff to investigate the engagement of the services of an urban planner on a consultant contract basis as a means to expedite the MDP review process in a more timely manner, and that staff report to council on their findings in September of 2023. Given that this is our last regularly scheduled meeting for September 2023, I just wonder if the CAO might have some comment on that initiative.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. I'll start by saying the last 6 months have gone by awfully quickly, and that there are a lot of competing interests and competing priorities for our time. I have had some discussions with Plan 360 regarding what would be required if the town wanted to hire an urban planner on its own to get the process started, because according to the discussions I've had with Plan 360, we really wouldn't be able to do it solely on our own, because there's just too much information that Plan 360 has that they would have to participate in the process. So what they have suggested as a bit of a hybrid approach, if you will, is that hiring an urban planner as a consultant could start doing certain things that need to be done in advance of the review, so that by the time Plan 360 is ready for the review, some of that initial groundwork would be done, and they may be able to complete the review quicker than they would normally. From there, I did have a discussion with and I forget his name escapes me, but an engineer who works with Plan 360 or with the Southeast Regional Service Commission on a contract basis, I think, who helps municipalities put together a request for proposals, because obviously this would be a significant cost to the town. So it's beyond what we're able to do without going to RFP. Had an initial meeting with the engineer, who said he would certainly help us put the RFP together, but wanted us to have a meeting with the folks from Plan 360 just to understand. I had taken notes on, the dozen or so studies or research projects that would need to occur before we could complete the review. But we want to sit down with Plan 360 again and just make sure we understand the proper sequence of all those various studies that need to be done. And we have not had that meeting yet, unfortunately. So we're still trying to schedule that meeting to be able to sit down the three parties together and then put an RFP together. And from there, we'll have a better idea. Once we know the scope of work that we're going to ask of the consultants, then we can put a price tag on it, come back to council and present. But, based on, and this is very high level, this is very preliminary, but based on the discussions with Plan 360, it could cost several $100,000 to complete all this if we do it through an independent consultant. So it's not an inexpensive exercise, but I will come to council with a more robust estimate or a more specific estimate once we're able to determine the exact scope of work that needs to be done.
Could I ask as a follow-up, you probably can't nail it down specifically, but is this something that you may have some update available in a month or so?
I'm hoping, Councillor, like I said, it's a matter of trying to line up the two other individuals and getting some time together, the three of us, to go through the scope of work. I will do my best to report back as quickly as I can.
Well, I appreciate that. But on the cost, I would just point out that we've already spent $300,000 or more on incentive grants to developers to build. So to spend $300,000 on a planner to make sure we're going to be building properly in the future, this kind of puts that into perspective, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's worth pointing out, though, that those incentives were approved and put in place by council, by a previous council, and we're simply administering them.
Oh, yeah.
The budget has been approved. And
I'm just saying that, to balance with our planning going forward, if we, to be mindful of how much we spend to have development take place. So we should put that into perspective in terms of what it might cost us to help get it right as we go forward.
We also invest, over $500,000 with Plan 360 to do just that.
Exactly.
So by wanting to go and hire an exterior consultant to speed things up, it's going to be over and above that cost as well, right? Because that's not going to reduce our costs with Plan 360. So it would be over and above that price tag as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Thank you for that update. Moi, je veux juste vous faire part le sujet durant
I just want also to mention also the subject of our weekend, Hurricane Lee. I had the opportunity to have many interviews with the interviews before. The focus was on the preparation, how the municipality would get ready, how people would get ready. So we promoted on social media with the population. Have your 72 hours kit, you might have some power shortage that could last a couple of days, and compared to what we had from Fiona last year. And then after the interviews fortunately, not too much action in our area, so we're quite happy and we sympathize with the part of the province that we're hit, like southwestern New Brunswick. At least, always be ready, plan for and you hope for the best. And I think we had the second part of this equation. At least this. I hope for you it went well. So, bylaw. So we have the second and third reading of the bylaw amending the municipal plan, 14.1 and 14.2. So we did the first reading 2 weeks ago. So if someone to move Councillor Patricia Bourgeois, thank you. The second reading of the bylaw, bylaw Z 1442, amending the zoning bylaw, the township be done by its title and integral. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Patricia Bourgeois, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette-Boudreau. Questions on the motion? All in favor, signify aye. Oh, question, sorry. Mr. Paul Boudreau, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this motion, excellent motion. Just to question, I don't know, when will it be coming in effect? As soon as it's adopted? So the third reading, so it comes in force like tomorrow. It has to be registered, so it's one like we adopt once we adopt the minutes. So it's soon. Once it's registered, so if you allow me, Mr. Mayor, there's still like a process. Like it's a specific process to follow, like according to the province. So once it's read and the minutes is adopted, it has to be sent back to the local governance minister, and then the office sends the approval, and after that we have to register it with the province. So it can still takes a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, like after the approval here. So before, like it becomes like a real bylaw, and it can be enforced by authority. This is the usual process. Brings me to second question. So, what will happen like to the actual project, like those who are waiting and those who are planning? So, what happened, because some of them, like it's a great project, like the two, it's a protection of our citizens. But so, what will happen? Like, I don't know if Danny, our planner, our chief planner, simply there's no project that is impacted by the modification or in planification or ongoing. So will not exist until so future projects will be subject if some are impacted by this, but there's not a lot. Thank you. Just to clarify, thank you. Councillor Roland Cormier, question. Maybe Jeff, get back to the podium. First, thank you for your answer. I'm new here, so that's why I would like to get more specification on how it works, the way we implement it. I will give you maybe a presumption. It's maybe an hypothesis, but if a developer comes in here tomorrow and asks for a building permit, and one of those lots is not impacted but could be impacted, look at this. So maybe we'll do like the 3 readings this evening. So legally, would you have to get to issue him this building permit? No, the building permit, it's not the date of the request, it's the date like the building permit is issued, but there's a reviewing period. So it means like the willingness of the council. I'm hoping that's where you're going. We'll see. So it means like you would respect like the council's wish, but maybe the appeal wouldn't be the case for the appeal board. So in theory, like the wish of the council would be the reality of your analysis, or your future analysis, like one like this. We cannot create like a delay without any reason. So if it's everything in place and nothing prevents us from issuing the permit, we would have to issue the permit. Essentially, like Plan 360 will implement like their regulation today as soon as they approve it. If the regulation change, I found it a little bit bizarre. I'm not saying weird. I found it a bit weird that the municipal council probably will decide something this evening, and the clerk is telling us it will be 2 or 3 5. That's a process. I'm not criticizing anyone. And in theory, there's something that could possibly happen in a month from now. and the wish of the elected official would not be respected. The wish of the council is there with the municipal council and the bylaw. We are respecting like the wish of the council. The legal process to modify a law. It's not something that can be done overnight. Like an act is. It usually is amended like in the provincial at the provincial and federal level. So once the Senate vote on the law, like the general government can sign like the bill right away. I think Mr. Boudreau would be more like in your analogy. So the deadline between the Senate and the general government, if there are a few weeks, I totally agree. But if the government say we want to implement it like one more thing, so we just ask like the lieutenant governor and we have them sign the document and it becomes a law. I understand. I just want to understand the process because, in my opinion, I think a municipal council with all the authority like we're told we have, it could take 2 months to really have a bylaw in place to secure and for a request made of our citizens. I'm not criticizing your answer. I have a problem with the implementation. Maybe I'm complaining people who cannot solve my problem this evening. It's a process that's established by the province. And we should keep in mind the municipalities in New Brunswick. So we are the creation of the province. So the province, once you adopt like a bylaw, you're the step you have to follow to make it official. You will try to follow this process like as quickly as possible, but it has to be approved like by the minister, and it has to be registered by the province, and it takes a few weeks. If not a few months, it shows like the importance of planning the future instead of reacting to problems and use planning like to find some solutions. I completely agree. So we'll look at the future and we will leave the past behind. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. So we had a motion to adopt the second reading of the bylaw. I was calling the vote, and then Mr. Clerk will read the bylaw by its title and its integrity. All those in favor signify saying aye. Against? Nay? Carried. Mr. Clerk. The bylaw number Z-14-44 bylaw amending zoning bylaw Z-14-44 of the township with the powers like the planning act, the municipal council, the town of being bylaw Z-14-44 enacted on 28th of April 2024 and following the Westmore County Register Office as number 3379593 on May 23rd, 2014 is hereby amended as follows. With section 1.5 high-density residential arts with the following provision shall be inserted. Screening shall be provided and maintained on the lot containing a multi-unit dwelling consisting of the existing vegetation or structures if sufficient to screen the lot from adjacent properties. But when the existing vegetation or structure is insufficient, the screen shall consist of one if the multiple unit lot abuts R1 zone, a 6-meter wide landscaping buffer consisting of one tree every 10 meters across the width of the landscaping area and a 2-meter high decorative solid fence along the parallel to the common property line. Item 2, like for high density artery, like will be included like when the artery zone is close to or one like the height has to be at least 2-story, and with any part of the building located within 12 meters of an abutting R1 zone shall not exceed 2 stories with a maximum height of 9 meters. B, any part of a building located between 12 and 15 meters of an abutting R1 zone shall not exceed 3 stories with a maximum height of 12 meters. And any part of a building located more than 15 meters from an abutting R1 zone shall not exceed 4 stories with a maximum height of 15 meters. Councillor Patricia, that we accept like the second reading of the bylaw by its title and its integrity. Moved by Councillor Bouchevali, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. 14.2, third reading. This is third reading of the bylaw number 714-44, the third reading of the bylaw number Z-14-4450, a bylaw amending zoning bylaw of the town of Shediac be done by its title. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. There's a typo, like 15Z. It's not 49Z. It's perfect. Moved by Councillor Bouchevali, seconded by Councillor Cormier. All in favor signify saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Mr. Clerk. Bylaw Z-44. It is a bylaw modifying like the Z-14 of the town of Shediac. That to accept the third reading by its title and the adoption of the bylaw Z-14-44-50, moved by Councillor Bouchevali, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. 15.1. Motion. The fund.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Alors,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Your Worship. You'll remember 2 weeks ago, there was a presentation by one of our consultants, Turner Drake. The Housing Accelerator Fund is a new fund from the federal government put in place this year. And its goal is to quickly increase the construction of housing, especially affordable housing. So the administration went forward with developing an assessment of the needs of the municipality's needs in terms of affordable housing and other. We also prepared an application to the federal program according to the advice and the information from our consultants. The town of Shediac could have been eligible for over 8 million from the federal fund, which would help us to invest in infrastructure, which must be done in the near future, as you all know. To apply, we needed to develop an action plan to also demonstrate how we were going to meet the requirements of this new federal program. It's a second initiative that the consultants from Turner Drake helped us with. And the action plan must be approved by the council. So now it's up to the councillors to see if it is something that they want to go forward with or not. And the administration identified this as a potential source of financing. It did the initial work. Well, now it's up to you to see if you agree with the action plan. And there are 9 initiatives presented as part of the action plan. All initiatives are in line with the expectations of this new federal program, but also initiatives where there are still some developed details to fill in. It was a concept, a vision, but certainly if the council should adopt the action plan, there'd be additional work to be done to identify in precise ways how each of the 9 initiatives could be implemented in the town of Shediac. And if the council decides it doesn't go forward with the action plan, we simply remove our application to the federal government. The deadlines are very tight for application. The applications opened in July and closed in August. So we only had a few weeks to apply. And so we said, well, we'll do the initial work and then we'll bring this to the council and the council will decide if it wants to proceed or not. So you all still have in your documents for tonight the presentation that was done 2 weeks ago, the action plan, the draft action plan that was prepared, as well as the needs assessment report in terms of housing in the town of Shediac. So we can certainly try to the best of our ability to answer your questions. Danny and myself can try to do that. There we go. It could be tonight. It could be at another meeting. If you want more time, in so long as the council has not adopted the action plan, it's as if our application to the federal government was not complete. So if it's not complete, they obviously won't approve it. So once again, it's up to you to decide if you want to continue with that plan or not. Great. Madam Deputy Mayor. So whereas an action plan was prepared by the firm Turner Shediac to allow the town of Shediac to present an application for the Housing Accelerator Fund, put forward by the Canadian Housing and Mortgage Society. So it is proposed that the town of Shediac approve the action plan proposed by Deputy Mayor Codvisilit Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. Any questions? I see a few. Councillor Janice Cormier, thank you, Your Worship. If we go forward with the action plan tonight, it's really just to see if the government does it oblige us to anything in the action plan? Once we have a yes from the government for money, it's something that we'll still continue to discuss and decide later if we want to continue. Adopting the action plan, it's like the last step of our application for financing, for federal financing. And then we have to wait if the federal government will approve it or not. It may be that for different reasons, the federal government might decide not to approve it, or if the decision by the federal government were to approve it, well, then we need to decide, all right, are we going forward or not with this initiative? Well, I think we should understand, and if I'm missing details, Danny, it's a vision for the development of housing in Shediac. The federal fund, it's an accelerator fund. That means within 3 years, they want all of these initiatives that were identified, they want them to be implemented. So there's a fundamental decision for the council to decide if we want to go in this direction. Are we ready to act? Well, quickly. We only have 3 years to implement what's in the action plan. And when the plan was developed, we did it in consultation with our partners. Plan 360 participated, the Sewer Commission as well participated a little bit, mostly our consultants based on the historical data and the available data who created the action plan. The action plan has 9 specific initiatives. Each of those initiatives will take work. It will take work to develop them and to go before the council with a specific recommendation based on each of the 9. We can go as wide or as tight as we'd like. But our decision could impact the level of financing that we get from the federal government. if the federal government is seeking to develop housing quickly because there's a shortage across the country, especially affordable housing. You know it, you hear about it. So if we're not ready, if we think that we are perhaps not ready as a municipality to go forward with the initiative, it would be the time to say so or to make that decision. If you want to explore it more, there are steps that can be taken before we sign a contract with the federal government or a Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation to say we're doing it. But we have to be comfortable with what's been presented to you 2 weeks ago in terms of the draft action plan and the initiatives. So Danny, if there's something I've missed that you want to add, no, you said that very well. Closer to the mic, please. No, you made it very clear. The only thing I would add, maybe put a little more emphasis on decision-making power in terms of policy changes that you might have to adapt to be able to participate in the action plan. But policy changes, you just made one tonight with bylaw 14-1452Z. That's a policy change. So there are things that you might see in the action plan. You have the decision-making power to adapt or not adapt. Once we get the go from the federal government, if we participate in the government, they won't pay us if we don't do the action plan. They'll just pay for the measures that we've actually taken. It's a project that is fast, yes, I agree. It's a lot of information for the councillors to gather and assimilate. But it's a government project. It's called Accelerated Housing Fund. So there you go. It goes fast. And that's my worry. Because lots of citizens say we're going awfully fast. There's lots of things going on. But it's a great program for affordable housing. I see that it's attractive. Yes, we should see that. We should go see for the application for financing. But I think we need to have further discussions. If we were to be accepted and within the next 3 years, maybe we would not be ready. We have to realize that in terms of development, with the municipal plan that's not updated and lots of things like that, it's fast, yes, but at the same time, I wouldn't want us to see them miss the boat for money on affordable housing. We know that we need it. It's like a double-edged sword, this one. We have to deal with the deadlines of the federal government here. Well, we might get a government answer next year. No, this program, when I met the former Minister for Housing, this is before the cabinet shuffle, Mr. Hooson, in Ontario, I think this program is designed to be for quick approvals. You're not going to wait 1.5 years, 2 years to know if you've been chosen. There's also a certain amount of money. It's an impressive amount of money. I think it's $4 billion that's available, as I recall. But there's more than $4 billion in applications. So if we don't take advantage of this money in Shediac, it'll be spent somewhere else. The federal government will spend this money, it's for sure. It's the first time that the federal government has come and made an agreement directly with municipalities. All the other agreements are between the federal and the province, and without any say-so for the municipality. This is a way for municipalities to act in terms of their needs of affordable housing. So we're speaking about affordable housing. We're not just talking about apartment blocks. We're not necessarily, no. Once it's been approved, and the government would say, okay, your money's been approved, what's the window of opportunity that we have to decide to go forward? The program is based on a period of 3 years. So we receive 25% of the financing. Once the contract is signed, if we want to put it like that, the project was approved, and 25% at the end of the first year, 25% second year, and 25% at the end of the third year. Obviously, if we meet the various elements that we agreed to in our plan, there's other votes that would come to the council, There's 9 initiatives foreseen, and each of those initiatives will require changes either to our municipal plan or to our zoning bylaw or even development specifications. But for example, when we speak of affordable housing, it could be to allow what they call granny suites, such things on a piece of land that might be zoned R1, for example, right now. But that with some modifications, if somebody has a large lot, they might be able to build a second housing for a family member on their land that wouldn't necessarily be allowed right today. This is something that we might see going forward. The 9 initiatives are not only related to affordable housing either. There are questions around climate change. In terms of developing our infrastructure to ensure that we're ready for that additional development. But it's all in the goal of eliminating the housing shortfall that we are seeing in the province and in the country. If I understand properly for the motion tonight, it's just to go forward with the application. Well, it's to approve the action plan. If you're not in agreement with the action plan, yeah, it's more than just the finishing the application. You do have to agree with the action plan as presented 2 weeks ago. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the clarifications. Councilor Harry McElroy.
Thank you, Mayor. I am strongly opposed to council endorsing this action plan. It's already been alluded to tonight, as this would represent, if we approved it tonight, this would represent the vision for housing development for the town of Shediac. That's without any public consultation. That's without any feedback from the residents. That's us deciding this is all going to be part of the vision for the town of Shediac going forward. And it has to go fast over the next 1 to 3 years, obviously, during which time we're not going to be able to, or we'll be in the midst of reviewing our municipal development plan. We maybe have our consultant trying to give us some advice. We're already hamstrung on all these initiatives, because if you commit to the federal government, this is what we're going to do, and they say, based on that, this is what money we're going to give you. Well, you have to do what you said you're going to do, or you don't get the money. And to me, a few $1 million ain't worth selling the soul of the town of Shediac. And I think that's what's contained in this document is inconsistent with the character of the town. And I'd like to go through a few examples. The first one, affordable housing. Well, let me just comment on affordable housing. I think Councillor Cormier referenced this last time we spoke. Affordable housing is a political motherhood word. Affordable housing just provides grants to a developer to build housing. It doesn't relate the rental in the end to the income of the person that wants to rent. If apartments get built and they can rent on the market for $2,000 a month, the developer isn't going to say, I'll take $1,500 and make it affordable unless someone else is paying the other $500. So you have to get in, if you really want to address the issue of folks who don't have incomes adequate enough to pay market rents, you have to get into subsidized housing, with which you're familiar, Mayor. And it has to be something that's done through nonprofit organizations and strictly monitored in terms of your income reflects your rent, and someone else, the government, by assisting that nonprofit group, is underwriting the rent. That's how it works. It doesn't work with affordable housing tag that just sounds good and gets people excited. Or you'll have additional housing units, of course, because developers are going to get paid money to build them, so they're going to build them. But there's nobody guaranteeing that those rents are going to be so-called affordable. The other thing that's interesting is this very first initiative talks about providing incentives. as part of this new federal program. We already provide incentives to build housing in Shediac. Some, including me, question the wisdom of that, but that's currently happening. This would add an additional at least $1 million. So whatever money you get from the federal government, if you read this document, 950,000 at least, and it'll probably be more, of the money coming from the federal government is going to the builders, not going to the renters, not going to us to build sidewalks or sewers, going to the developer. So that's the second financial incentive to the developer. The third one, which was announced by the federal government after it announced this program, is exemption of HST. So if that's 15%, that's $1.5 million on a $10 million apartment development. So you add all this up, you stack up all those incentives, no GST for the next 3 years on whatever you build, $1 million from Shediac for whatever you build, plus Shediac's current incentive program for whatever you build. We're going down a dangerous road in terms of the finances that are going away from people who need help paying their rent. They're not going anywhere near them. An analogy might be if you took $1 million and went to Galen Weston and said, we're going to give you $1 million if you sell affordable groceries. Well, are you going to get affordable groceries? You're not going to get them unless you legislate, unless you have some specific program where you're assisting people with buying the groceries, not with giving the provider of the groceries the money. Anyway, that's item one. The next one is denser, permitting denser housing forms. So this initiative's goal is to increase zoning in low density zones. That means R1, R2, by expanding the geographic application of existing R2 zones, which currently enables the density. The R2 zone will also be applied as a starting point for development for newly serviced areas. That means if a subdivider comes in, wants to subdivide a property for 100 building lots, they have to be R2, they can't be R1. That's what that says. You can go in there and build an R1 house, but you're not going to get an R1 zone because our strategy is going to be, we're forcing the development to go R2 direction. That's pretty major. Again, when you consider that we're only getting into, as quickly as we can, a review of our municipal development plan, and we're actually contemplating, again, putting in these limitations, restrictions, and predetermining for the plan review what's going to happen with these situations. High density infill. The initiative aims to identify strategic locations for higher density infill development by making use of underutilized spaces within established neighborhoods, which means you can go anywhere in the town of Shediac, regardless of what the zoning is. You find underutilized lands, whether it's abolishing existing older dwellings, maybe, or whatever it is. You can go into Shediac Cape to the extent that the water and sewer is there, and you can start doing the same thing. You can identify sites where you can start doing infill housing. And that really is something that needs to be done, not broad brush. Here's a policy, go find a land and you can build there. That needs a plan review where planners and council and the public look at the whole town of Shediac and say, where is this reasonable thing to do? Where it's not reasonable to do that everywhere in town. Obviously, we have to think about what's logical in terms of sewer capacity, in terms of undeveloped lands at the west end there, maybe close to the highway interchange. Is that where we're going to want to move development as opposed to downtown? This just gives a carte blanche policy. This is what you can do. And once you approve these things, you don't go back unless you say, we will forego the money and not do that. But you're not going to forego everything in here. And there's a lot of stuff here that would not be possible without accepting the funds and going forward. Another one that the CAO just mentioned is the additional dwelling unit on a property. And that's probably not that bad of a thing, depending on the size of the lot, depending on the size of the unit that you're going to put in there, depending on side yard setbacks, clearances from the existing main dwelling to the other dwelling. But to just to adopt that wholesale, that's something that we're going to allow throughout Shediac, is to me a dangerous thing to do. Forgive me for taking more time than I should, but I would need to go through all these items.
It's fine. Go ahead.
Remove the need for parking. Shediac is not a mini Mississauga. In Mississauga, you got ultra modern transit systems, subways, surface transit. So, and I read the federal background papers to the program, and it specifically talked about building apartment buildings with reduced parking or no parking, where you can walk out the front door of your apartment building into a subway or onto a bus. Can't do that in Shediac. So to have that as an option, and you can bet your sweet bippy that if that stays in there, and we advance it to CMHC, developers are making note of that. This is what this town of Shediac is prepared to accept, because we're not tying it to transit. We're just saying we're going to contemplate applications to build apartment buildings with reduced or no parking. Well, once you say that, you put that in writing, you adopt that as a policy, you're going to be under some legal obligation to entertain applications to do that. And to me, that's another dangerous thing. All of these things I'm mentioning, really, to do them without not just the courtesy, but we have an obligation to consult with the residents when it comes to major changes to the character of the town. And these are major changes. Once again, these are Toronto, London, Ontario. These are big city kinds of initiatives. And there are some big cities, including the largest one in Atlantic Canada, that's not doing any of these. The way they've applied for the program, but the way they're getting the housing on stream faster is to streamline their application process. And that's a city that doesn't pay incentives to build. Builders have to pay the city for permits to build, and for development fees, for stormwater, and for all kinds of things. So it's expensive to build in those areas. You'll flock to Shediac in a heartbeat, with all the money that you're being paid to do the same thing that you'd have to pay to do somewhere else. And the other thing about Shediac and its future development is we don't have to push, we don't have to, I guess, prostitute the character of the town to attract large development. Development will come to Shediac because people want to be close to Moncton. I've heard you, Mayor, talk about towns, if you don't grow, you die. Talked about, as an example, Dalhousie. Well, if Dalhousie wanted to have a resurgence, it could relocate itself to 20 miles outside of Moncton, and it would see a turnaround in its economy and its population and so on. So these are things that apply to Shediac that are unique, that mean we don't have to go running around looking for developers. This is a town with tremendous natural assets, and it's a tremendous draw for tourists, and it's a tremendous draw for people who want to be close to Moncton but not live in Moncton. And that's the character that we have to preserve, and we have to consult with our residents on. The other thing is we need to focus more on quality of life. We can't just keep building buildings, bringing in people. We don't have an up-to-date arena. We don't have a wellness center. We don't have adequate lifestyle options for our populations. And the more money we put into infrastructure to support the development of high-density housing, the less money we're going to have to be able to put into projects like the one we attempted to get funding for a few months back. And my understanding is that more programs are becoming available to underwrite or to cost share on those kinds of developments. And to me, we should be not focusing on a few $1 million that we'll end up getting from this program while the developers get the bulk of it, but focus more on other programs which will allow us to give our existing residents a better quality of life and better options for their healthcare and recreation and so on. Try and page through this again and see if there's another one, but I think I've hit my major points, and I'm pretty discouraged that that this is before us in the manner that it is, because as I say, to me, it doesn't reflect the nature, the character, and the desires of Shediac in going forward over the next 3 or 4 years. And it also hamstrings our proper consultative with the public plan review process. And for those reasons, I think it's a dangerous direction to go in. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Prochain, Conseiller Emile O'Brien.
Councillor Emile O'Brien, thank you, Your Worship. I'm in a similar way. I've read the document. I found a few things myself, a few points that I can't understand. First point on page 2, on the housing supply target. It's on the bottom of the text. The program must require the overall target to be broken down into various forms of housing. And then he mentions it's going to take 127 single homes
to be R1. I can count on the figures about how many R1 lots would be available to build a house. There's not a lot R1 like just for a single family dwelling. So it was one of the questions I had. So it means that if a developer you would have to build a single family dwelling on R2, which is not interesting for a developer because will not be to build multiple units. It will not build a single family dwelling. So I thought it was a negative, a point for it. And it's something that we should look at. And then there's also the page 8, remove the need for parking. Here we mentioned it too. Also, I will give you an example. I live in the new development just beside my development. There's a 5-unit building. There are 5 driveways, 2 cars per driveway, and 12 cars are only we have only 6 units and 2 cars. To remove the need for parking, really, the explanation that is there, I cannot make sense out of this. And also, on page 3,
supporting affordable housing.
Affordable housing. My affordable housing is affordable housing. You have to be able to afford it. But here, the developer will build those affordable housing. The developer, they're in business to make money. They will not offer a rebate, as is the case. It will be as expensive today. The rents are high, $1,800, $2,000 per month. I cannot believe that a developer will build affordable housing and have rebate. It's another problem I saw. And also, the incentive, the incentive, is it for developers or residents? Harry mentioned we already have an incentive program. I do not believe in it. I think that program should be abolished. But who will get those rebates? Will it be developers or residents? Because the developers are there to make money, so I don't blame them. Another question, I saw a total of $577,000. $500,000 would cost to put this program together.
Je suis correct en disant ça?
Am I okay? Like,
En bas de chaque section.
so there are some costs under each section.
C'est correct, ça, je dis que ça-
Is it okay? Like it will cost $570,000 to put this program in place?
C'est le total, ouais, c'est le total, ouais, c'est le total, ouais.
Ouais, toute l'information qui a été présentée.
All the information that was presented, like it was designed like with the committee, and the cost of it, it's start when we start the initiative. If we get on board, like the total cost will be this. But also, like Councillor Brian, in terms of so when we're talking about the incentive, like for clarification, so the incentive, like for affordable housing, they were identified, like if they fall taking the CHMC program, they have the rent roll, so they have to offer the same rent. There would be a rent reduction, but they have to follow this part of the program. If you not follow this, you will not get the incentive. You will not get like the special rates of CHMC, all what the program has to offer the developer and also for the municipality. There is some kind of control to make sure like it does not directly go into their pocket. It's just to make sure like the committee has a control like for on affordable housing. And it's some CHMC. I'm with you. I'm with not Constable, Councillor Henry. You got the promotion. I'm with Constable Councillor Henry. I'm with Councillor Henry. I will not support this project too. And I just had another quick question, like when. So it's been twice we've been. We're doing like a study. What was the cost like to this? Was there a cost associated to this? For the consultant, that's the word I wanted to say. Not the constable, like the consultant. So definitely there are some costs associated like to the work done. And so you adopt a project every year, and in this project there's a budget envelope for the professional fees. So when we need to consult, like accountant, lawyers, consultant on different subjects, so we have some money to work. I could not say exactly like find like exactly how much it was for the study, but we have to remember like this part of the study, like the needs assessment for the municipality. It's someone that we'll be able to use in the update of our municipal plan. So it's important. So the action plan was developed like as an option for you to consider. So the council ultimately will decide. So I think, just my personal opinion, I think
we've oversimplified,
like the action plan. And I think in each of those items under the action plan, we're talking about like in-depth work. We have to review the policies in place. We have to modify bylaws. We have to do public consultation. We have to educate the population too. It's not true like adopting the plan that everything is done. Like a lot of work. It will still be a lot of work to do to get like to get the support for population and development. If we want to build affordable housing, either the developers and nonprofit organization build it. So we had two like options. It was 2 out of the 9 options we identified. To work also like with developers for affordable housing and work also with the nonprofit organization. So there was already like some project for affordable housing like on La Bature Street. Once a nonprofit organization, can we encourage like others like this? But the problem where the costs are like now, I agree like if there's no government help, like the rent will not be affordable because the developers, they want to get back their costs, but with the incentive and with the control as then he explains, it would be a lot of conditions like that the developers would have to accept before they can proceed with the project. And one of the conditions would be like the rent control. It's a long process. There's a lot of work involved. So this would only be the starting point. So it would be enough time to educate and consult the population. But once again, like the final decision is if you do not want to go forward with this initiative, we will withdraw the application and that's it. I will not support this. My question was for the consultation. How much it costs for the consultation? I do not have the exact number, but we can maybe have it again and go back. But usually like a consultation goes back like to the council, but not if it's in the budget, because we had this budget envelope, if we can function with this. So we do not need like to bring this each and every expenses to the council if the money was voted by you during the budget. But we have budget. We have like budget amount to work with this. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Paul Boudreau. I don't want to repeat what everyone has said. So the red flags I saw in those documents expand the existing R2, it scares me, like bring more modified zones. So these words scare, like modified zones, like but every month we have to fight, like when it comes to zoning, making all use of unauthorized brought up zoning. What is that? Those terms like kind of scare me. Like they remove the need for parking. So well, I have two questions. Is there a time limit, like for first? Did we modify? Could we modify those? Is it already like a done deal or?
No, sorry.
So the request that was submitted to the federal government was submitted because we had very tight deadlines, but it's according like to the draft of the action plan that was presented, and it's based on the admission criteria of the program. So the federal government, I think they had about 20 different initiatives, and we were able to check 9. And we thought we could meet it for each of initiatives. We check like there's a mathematic formula that tells us how much money we could get to the program. And altogether, it's a little bit over 8 million. But our request is not finalized as long that the action plan hasn't been approved by the municipality. So we will never have an answer from the federal government to know if we will get the funding, as long as, because that's the last step and it's your decision, but this is the last step in the application process. A question, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but if ever we get the funding for this program, and I congratulate like this one, to get the money, would we focus on developments that for non-profit or like a co-op housing community group to develop? Because the concern that I do not blame around the table is developers. They're there to make a profit, but the council with these individuals could we focus on community groups that could give it results to reduce like the rent for our citizens? Is it something that could be done? So with this program, I mean, it's a tweak also with a capital T. So it was the second initiative. Well, out of those 9 initiatives, is to work with the nonprofit organization to try to develop some projects. Cannot force them to do. We can work with them, encourage them, and we can help them. But it's one of the those 9 actions that were proposed. And one thing that makes this program specific, we have other infrastructure program could apply. Except this program, it's stackable. That's the term we're using in English. But even if we get money like from the federal government, it does not prevent us from getting federal money under like an infrastructure program. So it could It could even reduce the cost for the municipality. So how we look at the one-third project, 25, 50. So our 25%, we could use those funds because usually like the government program, they're not stackable. So apply to one place and you cannot apply to other place. So with this agreement, this money can be applied. So we can apply for other programs, even if we didn't get those programs. Thank you for the information. So that will help me make decisions. So with the initiatives like that were proposed by the town, like to get this money, do we still have like to follow like the direction from the municipal plan, like R1, R2, and what we voted on this evening? So will it modify what we have today? So the actions could possibly, like, they could modify, like, some of the criteria. Let's say, for example, allow like a granny suite in the R1. I don't think it's allowed today to have like a self-standing building, but let's say someone in the R1 would have enough land to do so. So the council member, yes, it would still modify, unless I'm wrong, it would still modify like some of those components of the zoning plan, but some of the council member, they would still have the power. Vote yes or no for those changes. If there was a modification to R1 to allow grant, we need 3 readings. We need like a public. We need like a public hearing, and if we do not have those initiatives, it will probably take money out of the funding. But the decision will go back to the council. So, is there a time limit for this one? Can we wait like for another month to get more information? Is it something like are we in a rush? Because what Harry was saying is very important. Like, there's no like specific deadline, but as long as we did not completed our application, we will not get an answer. But it could be in 2 weeks, it could be in 4 weeks. Every week go by, we can maybe miss the boat on the announcement made by the federal government. 2 weeks, 4 weeks. There's no like a deadline. There's a deadline to program. It's a 3-year program with very tight deadlines. But the longer we wait to finalize our request, the longer we'll wait for an answer. But thank you very much, Victor. Few questions. Councillor Alain Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of information like that you share with us. I do not disagree with Councillor McEnroy was telling us. His concerns are very legit. These are very good points. But with the last answer we got from our CEO, we still have the last say at the end of the day. Something not to have like a limited parking. Yes, an initiative for a big city. I would disagree, but we'll come there around the table. We need affordable units. I'm concerned like the way like the system will work, because at the end of the day, the developers understand they have to make money. But I'm ready to approve like the request with on the reservation that will bring up some other information. Maybe we'll not get 8 million. Maybe the federal government will give us 4 million. Then we'll say no, and we have got maybe 1 million, but still money on the table. It's not money with any at any price. So the development to consult the population, I completely agree. We have to consult the population. Since our arrival, like we often hear like planners saying that our plan works good, and the citizen, it's not working that good, like it's the planner, because the planners is our specialists, our citizens, our constituents. So they see like where we get coming from. But I know it will take a month to prepare the plan. Councilor Martin is concerned, but I'm ready like to go forward, not to make the project go forward, but if we have after to cut somewhere, we'll do it then. No, for the sake of saying no on this one, well, I think it's worthwhile like to make this file go forward, but under the reserve that we will be very meticulous like when it will come, when we have to approve things in that plan. We'll look at them individual. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cormier. Two others. Mrs. Deputy Mayor. I don't know where to start. Like myself and Ronald were part of the Affordable Housing Committee. So we had one meeting. I did not see this one like during the meeting. And I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but there's so many questions. I appreciate like what Councillor McElroy said and what Councillor O'Brien said. There's one question I have. The number single does not concern me. How to put 127 in a single dwelling? Is it Shediac? The old Shediac or the new Shediac? Because if it was an old Shediac, there's no spot. If it's a new Shediac, I'm talking about like the new boundaries. So if it's a new Shediac, there might be some space available. I'm like you, Mr. O'Brien, like so that's everything left, like there's none. Like so I'm a little bit concerned about this. So another question, it might there's 9 initiatives. If I say yes, we present this, that's okay. Like I appreciate like what Councillor Cormier said, but out of those 9 initiatives, all of a sudden, we check 7 of them. That's it for us. So what happened? We have 9 initiatives out of the 20. So we checked 9, and possibly like we could do like I completely agree. Like the parking is not an option. We can present all kinds of little table with 1.25. I drive one car, not a 1.25 car. Like it doesn't fit. No. But, so what I'm saying, like even that we need 1.3 FTE. It's a 1.3 employee. It doesn't make sense. I do not like this calculation. It's 1 or 2, really. In the recipient, maybe 1.5, but I have a hard time. Like, can we apply just for the sake of applying, and then yes, you fit in the program, and once we fit in the program, well, we can still continue the decision. We apply under 19 initiatives, and if after we decide to continue with 4 initiatives, so the funding. The grand total will be lower, but we continue with 4 initiatives if we're comfortable with it. So we go with 4 initiatives, example. So we apply for the biggest one, and initiative that we fit. So that's the one by estimate $342,000. Once again, you said this incentive for the developer. We need our developers, but once again, to with price. So the incentive for developer is also for non-profit developer. It doesn't have to be a private developer. Still a developers, but these ones, they're not gonna work. We have one big one, like getting established. There is some interest. And these non-profit, okay. It's an opportunity. That's all that is. Like, I appreciate it, but really, I'm not even sure I'm comfortable to vote yes or no this evening. I'm not comfortable, but I don't know like when we can have more discussion we can have them in camera. So I don't know like what type of question to ask.
I'm torn,
OK.
totally torn.
Merci.
Merci.
I'm torn.
Les deux autres qui ont demandé pour poser des questions.
There are two other councillors that asked it,
Si vous voulez.
and
Councilor,
Councillor Marie Lloyd.
Harry, you did your homework. Well done. Well done. But I find you're slanted towards developers. There are good developers that can contribute. And you are probably one who saw many, many developments in Halifax that are very, very, very successful. We have a problem here. It's a catch. We have to build wellness centers. As you stated, we have to build a new rink. We have to build a new sports center, possibly in the stage of $200 million. And I'm being polite. Where in the hell are we going to get the money? We need taxes. It's a big word, taxes. How are we going to our constituents say, hey, your taxes just went up? We got a lot of seniors. I had a town hall meeting last week. There's one question continuously comes up.
Yep.
Taxes. Now, what solves taxes? Revenue. Where do we get our revenue? It's only one area. Build. We turned down $1,200,000 a year from a developer. I understand maybe it wasn't the right time, the right place. But I think that we have to look at a position here. And if we're getting the opportunity to get revenue from the feds that we can maneuver to our advantage, then I think we should seriously consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lloyd. Conseillère Patricia Beauchevalier.
Merci, M. le
Damien.
Maire. J'entends les
Thank you,
gens
Mr. Mathieu. I hear people, I hear like the councillor to talk around me. And with the addition of this housing unit, like R1, R2, would be some cost to the town because our infrastructure, like we already have a difficulty problem with sewer. With this program cover this one, the cost we need if we had a cost if we went forward with the development and we had to put money, but if it requires like an investment from the town, is it the town that will either like the street, sidewalks, like water and sewer? Is it, can we get money? I would offer a clarification and the answer to the question. So the project we discussed here with our water and sewer system, the investment will have to be them regardless. What would happen with the project that was discussed a few weeks ago? So regardless, we have to do this project. So that's why we're trying to identify like other possible funding sources. Yes, part of the funding will go like in the implementation of those actions, but they will still be part of those revenue that could be applied to our infrastructure projects. So either like the extension of the fire station or the expansion of the water line, but not 100%, but part of that money could be used like in those projects. And as I said, this money, so this money is above and beyond what we would get from more traditional infrastructure program. So in the 8 million, we could take some money, not the whole amount, but a percentage. Once again, it will depend. Like I think Councilor O'Brien, 500,000 in costs, like just to put this action in place. So 0.5 million is left. And those initiatives, like we need some investment if you want to get like some incentives. So that would be on this. And at the end of the day, well, there will still be some money left. We could apply like in our infrastructure project. So we can accommodate like some new projects. I would say like it's not bad. Like, and once like if we go forward, it's presented and we accept this. Like, is there some work to do for the administration? Because I hear some concern. We'll apply if you don't want it. We will remove it. Is it something we'll do all this work and the administration will spend some time on this project and every time like they will go back to the council for the approval? Not that. I think we need. I think you have some better to do the renewal, like the fire station. We have a lot of projects to work on. If it's gonna, if it more money, we'll vote the case by case. Well, we might vote for one, or we do nothing. Yes, we would need like some help, the consultant. Because we do not have all this capacity or expertise internally. Once again, there's a percentage of this amount. So I have like to pay for some consultant to go forward with those actions and also to go back on the issue on the Councilor O'Brien's question. I think $10,500 that we would have invested with the consultant, and then that's what we would have need to review the plan. But part of it helped to develop the action plan and prepare the request. But that's the amount that was put for on this.
Si qu'on pourrait peut-être le retravailler. Au moins, il y a juste 2 initiatives qui m'intéressent, mais j'aurais beaucoup de conditions à ajouter.
Well, there's just 2 initiatives that I find interesting, but a lot of conditions to add. But that's my point of view. Thank you. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin.
C'est-tu seulement vieux Shediac ou c'est...
Is it only the old Shediac, or does it include Scudok Roads, Scudok, Shediac, Pointe du Chêne? Are they involved in this, in the plan as well? They could be, for sure. When you're developing a new municipal plan, it would include the entire community. Nothing would prevent us from including. You can no longer think in the future. It's no longer old Shediac and the LSDs. It's the new Shediac. Nothing would prevent us from applying some of these actions throughout our territory if it makes good sense. There's other actions where it's just logical to focus on downtown or things like that. Once again, it'll be on a case-by-case development to be developed as we would develop each point. But when you're going to make your plan, will those regions be included in your plan? Well, that's what I'm saying. The plan, as we develop each of the 9 initiatives, you will be able to make decisions at that point. Do we apply this to all of the territory or only to a portion of the territory? Each of these decisions for each action will come back to the council. We're speaking of modifying bylaws and policies to implementing new policies. These are all things that for which the council has the last word. Some of these initiatives perhaps might depend on where the sewer system is found, where the water system is found. If there's no water system outside of the former borders of the town, there aren't any in Scudok, there aren't in Pointe du Chêne. There's a sewer system. That's for the great majority anyway. So, we have a proposal on the table. I could call for the vote if you're comfortable voting. If there's somebody who wants more information, Est-ce qu'on peut...
I'll do a vote by raised hand.
Well, usually you go around, that's what usually happens. You go counselor by counselor and ask if they're for or against.
Can do. It's one way to vote. Donc, je vais faire un vote.
So I could do a vote. The other thing that you can do, one of you could do if you would like, if you still have questions and if you want more information, it's a good reason to table something. It's always a good reason, regardless of the topic. If I receive unless I receive a request to table it, we will go to the vote. Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that we table this item for tonight. Madam Deputy Mayor moves that we table this motion for this evening. Inaudible. Can somebody second this?
Define time?
Yes.
Just table until if you're asking for the next meeting, or if you're asking, I need a piece of information, but if it's not available at the next meeting, obviously you can't quite
So it's just
get it done.
tabled indefinitely on that motion then.
Rather, I can put a date if you'd rather. Should you?
Was he? It would be fair.
Go ahead. Thank you. I move that we table this item for the HAF to the next, by 4 weeks later, the second meeting in October, 4 weeks from today. 16th of October. Not the next one, not which would be the second, but the 16th. Thank you. So there's a proposal to move until October 16th meeting. We'll come back for discussion. In the meantime, be able to seek information if you so desire. Does somebody second the motion to table this? Councillor Patricia. Is there somebody to move it, to second it? I need to ask a question. Not to table. I can't ask a question about tabling. I had a question to ask. Unfortunately, it's for tabling. It's a decision. Either you push it back or you don't. You're seconding to table the motion. So moved by Deputy Mayor Councillor Sylvie Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Gallant to table this until October 16th.
Still want a recorded vote on the tabling?
Veux-tu encore
Sur la motion pour tabler.
on the motion to table? Councillor Sylvie, Deputy Mayor Sylvie, Councillor Després, yes. No, not to table. 1-1.
No.
No. No.
No tabling. No.
No tabling.
No.
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 Oui.
Yes.
No.
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 Pour tabler 10,
It's sorry for the motion of table 10 against 1. Motion is defeated. We come back to the main motion.
That's all that's left to do.
C'est tout ce
So, pour l'adoption.
to adopt the action plan. Madame Deputy Mayor. Councillor Després, Councillor Cormier, Councillor Lloyd. No. Yes. Yes. No. 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 Yes. 4 yeses. 8 noes. The motion is defeated. Thank you for this debate. It was a debate. So, financial incentives. That's something I didn't want. Mr. CAO, I might ask,
Just donner le background.
Inaudible to present the background. Once you have it on your screen, 1 second.
Okay,
So this is there was a request for incentives for residential development. Just 3 individuals, 2 companies. Dream to Reality made a request. They built 2 houses, single-family dwellings. There's ACVE. They built 37 units of row housing, asking for incentives to the tune of $37,000. And also residents of the municipality who built a home, a single-family dwelling home, and it's a request for $1,250. So generally, I don't read this. I'm just giving you the information. Well, this is great. Just that is great. So, a motion. The motion, Councillor Jarman, would you like to read it? Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved that the town of Shediac issue a residential development incentive check to the following developers and residents. Dream to Reality Developments, $2,500 plus HST. ACV Capital Incorporated, $37,000 plus HST. And Real and France Cormier, $1,250. I so moved, Your Worship. Proposed by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I will vote for it because it's within the policy that we should do it. But I will support a few councillors to date that said it's about time that we seriously look at these initiatives. I don't think that this is making a difference between any development or not development in our region. And I'm anxious to discuss this with my colleagues during the budget process. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Emile O'Brien. Do we have a right to refuse that policy or to vote against it? Do we are obliged to accept it? Well, basically, the policy foresees the process, so you can vote against it. Well, Mr. CAO, there's a policy that exists. There's a budget set aside. Historically, the policy has always been respected. I understand if some members of the council want to change the policy, well, make a proposal to change it. But to try to go back on a policy and a program that already exists, that has been applied for quite a number of years, and to say all of a sudden, well, no, we're no longer honoring our own incentive policies that are in place, I think it would be, the perception would be bad and subject to legal issues as well. The politics says that we will give it. Well, I'd like to make a proposal to stop that proposal. Could I make that proposal tonight? Or would the clerk have to prepare the proposal? Same thing. The clerk would have to prepare that type of thing. It is something that can be done. It is something, as I said at the last meeting, it's something that the Economic Development Committee is revising to come to a better format, proposed format, a different format. It takes more than it's not just from one thing next that you can do this. That policy is based. Well, Danny, correct me if I'm completely wrong here. It's on an annual basis. It's when a property is built during a given tax year. It's basically that. Yeah, generally what we do is we put it in the budgetary forecasts for the 2024 budget, and we learned what was built in 2023 would qualify in 2024 for the incentive. So even if we change the incentive policy in the 1st January 2024, what was designed in 2023 would have to still be in the budget. I just want to be clear with the council members. So there'd be a 1-year delay. There'd be a 1-year delay in the policy per se. During the construction, that they have to be on the tax roll for the year, if you read the policy properly. And to do so, it's usually after constructions up till September, they do the tax roll. we make the budget, tax come out in March, and that's when we offer incentives based on the policy. So anything that was built in 2023, it will be the incentives for 2024. If we change the policy in 2024, it means 2025. So these are things that were built in 2022. This is a policy that's been in effect since 2013, and these are for 2022 constructions. So I can ask the clerk to prepare a motion to abandon this not with this vote. It's something that the clerk can take a note and start to work on. I understand that some have strong opinions on this, but this policy has existed for 10 years. It might be wise to take the time to assess these policies. It could be part of the budget policy process that's coming up in the next 2 months. To come in from one meeting to the next to abolish a policy, there's repercussions. We'd have to see what impact it will have on those who have already started to build, knowing that the policy was in place. There's a bit of due diligence to be done, and I would recommend my message. It's a clear message that some want to review it. I think it's to be in the budget process when we're looking at each department and each item, the large budgetary envelopes. I'd say at that point, it would be good if you said, listen, for reason XYZ, we want to take those monies and invest them somewhere else. There are choices we can make, but from one meeting to the next to eliminate a policy that existed for the past 10 years. I see your point, but the reality is, that program worked 10 years ago, but now, the way the town is growing, we don't need it anymore. I was just giving an example. Here, with our ACVE Capital Inc., we're paying them an incentive of $48,500. They built 37 units on Jock Street. They're exactly the same buildings, all 37 units. And the town is giving $48,000 to that developer. It's nice now. I'm not saying it doesn't look good now. There could have been a little more creativity though. There's condos with garage. No, but him, it's just straight row housing, same model. And it's going to be the other thing on the other side of the street. Well, my gosh, why would you pay a developer to build row housing that they're going to profit from? It's an expensive policy. So I've announced myself against that program. I'm trying to abolish it. Thank you. Questions, Councillor Peterborough. It's a comment on Councillor Emil's comment. I recall at the time when we really didn't have any development, and we were ready to give more than that for development. I understand that now we have development, but it's not because we have development that we need, that we'll always have development. I think that the incentives are still perhaps up to date. I think that the department, Danny's department, should look into changing perhaps some elements of it, but to completely remove the incentives, I don't know. I think it could be a double-edged sword, because it's not because you have lots of construction now that we'll always have some. And we know that the program worked very well. We received lots of tax revenue from it. So I think that before removing it completely, we need to review it with Danny's department, maybe suggest some changes, but to be very careful in terms of removing it altogether. There's lots of development, and it could change, but it could change. Thank you, Councillor Bro. So, on the motion to approve those incentives, all those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. 1 no. Councillor O'Brien? Motion carried. 15.3. Just three more things. Water distribution system, amounts payable, accounts pay where amounts need to be paid. It's certainly that the water distribution system, we certainly have accounts that are payable. It's not unique to the town of Shediac. We also have a bylaw that regulates our water distribution system, and a section that refers to accounts payable. And we have people who have overdue accounts who are seeking to settle their accounts and bring them to date. And to do this, we need approval from the council. After a negotiation with the homeowner in question, you'll see that as an individual who approached the municipality to be able to settle their account based on the agreement before you, we would need a resolution to accept that. Councillor Miller O'Brien, you so move? Be it resolved and all that, be it resolved, whereas Article 1072 of Bylaw 032204, a bylaw on the water distribution system stipulates that the council has the right to negotiate the amount of interest for overdue accounts on an individual basis. Be it resolved that the council accept payment of $7,500.04 for the water account of number LANDB001 to bring this account up to date under the condition that the payment be received in full no later than 22nd September. So moved by O'Brien, seconded by Gallant. Any questions? There's amounts for provision. We have amounts in provision. It's a large amount that we're removing. Do you want to answer? Yeah, we have amounts in provision, but it doesn't cover. I just saw today that the amounts in provision did not cover all of that amount. I don't remember the exact figure, but I know that it doesn't completely cover that amount. So we don't have enough accounts in provision for a loss. The loss would not be enormous. It's about $3,000 as a loss. Based on the budget of the bad debt, there's be a difference of about $3,000. And after that, we wouldn't have any provisions. That's great. Councillor Peterborough, my question is, perhaps for the CAO, 10 days, is that enough? Or should we add a little more time? No? The landowner is in agreement with the conditions. Perfect. So, we have moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Germain Gallant. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 15.4, priorities for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure 2023-2026. 2025-2026. Just quickly, each year or nearly each year, the Department of Transportation communicates with the municipalities to have their list of priorities for the roads designated within municipalities. The last plan developed by the municipality was 2022 to 2024. We are now in 2024, but we've received some money to do work on Main Street, just across from the town hall. They're starting their plan as of 2025, and they're asking for the municipality's priorities. So we're recommending basically to present the same list of priorities that had been presented in 2022, since nothing on the list has been completed yet. It's the same list of priorities that had been submitted in 2022. So we recommend to the council to approve that list. Great. So I need a motion to discuss this. Councillor Paul Boudreau moved. I can't take any questions until that. You can take questions after. I'll have a question after. So, do we have a motion? Madam Deputy Mayor, the priority to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure 2026, whereas the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is updating its program for improving roads, designated roads for the construction season 2025, whereas the minister has sent a letter to the mayor on August 2nd, 2023, asking for the list of the priorities of the town of Shediac be resolved, that the 5-year plan be submitted as follows: 2025, the road 133 between King Street and South Cove Road, repairs to the sewer and stormwater system, reparation of potable water system, replacement of curves and canivos, and sidewalks and paving. 2026, Route 233 between South Cove and Pointe du Chêne, repairs to sewer system and stormwater system, repairs to drinking water piping, a replacement of curbs, and replacement of sidewalk and paving. 2027 between the streets Saint-Anne and King, repairs to sewer and stormwater system, replacing of drinking water pipes, replacement of the sanitary sewer, sidewalks and curbs. 2028 Shannington Road, it includes reparations to stormwater systems, repairs to curves, canivos, and sidewalks and paving. 29 Beach, replacement of drinking water piping, repairs to sewer system, replacement of curbs and sidewalks and paving. I so move. Moved by Deputy Mayor Julie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Jean-Claude Bertin. It's the same list that comes back insofar as the government doesn't address it, basically. Councillor Paul Boudreau, 2 questions. I hadn't seen a list. It's not on my computer. Jean-Claude shared it with me. That list, given with the few amalgamation, the list is what it's worth. You're right. It might as well be the same one. Is there a reason why we're not exposing a new entity, that the 133 that goes to Shediac Cape, or it's not available under the same agreement? The streets outside the old municipality of Shediac are still owned by the Department of Transportation. So they don't need the list. They already have their list. There's no problem. That answers my question. Councillor Ronald Cormier, thank you, Your Worship. Just a hypothesis here. If we have money, it's 132 roads south, is King South Cove. That's the one that we do first. Yes. So as of 2025, that's our list of priority. 2024, we already know that we're receiving some money from the provincial government to redo Main Street from Chesley to Pont-Foch. That's already set out for 2024. I'll be honest with you. Are these good priorities or not? Or are they, honestly, I don't know. All I know is that you have determined that in 2022, 2 councils ago, and you're asking us to submit. I'd like to know what Bob thinks of all this. It's a list that comes from them. Bob? Yes, thank you. That list of project is what we have in our 5-year plan. It's in line with our 5-year plan. There's been no changes, not for a while. We checked it again, and we checked it. It's still logical and it makes sense, and it does. Now that's more logical. That makes more sense. Great. So, I have a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Number 15.5, financing of the Net Zero Project Phase 2. Mr. CAO, thank you, Your Worship. This is to follow the discussion that we had at the September 5th. No, it was presented at August 12th. I was looking for the date. I knew I'd written it somewhere. It was on the August 12th meeting. We were presenting the application that we did to both government bodies for financing. Now, you've seen earlier the two presentations from SGIN and Siemens. And again, I think it's important to highlight that this is an initiative, a project that has been in place for over the past few years. It's been quite a few years. The mayor's predecessor started that project. It shows you how long we've been speaking about smart cities in Shediac. The first phase of this project is the research project underway, financed by the federal government and involving NB Power, the municipality, the pension center here, the solar farm built next to Ohio Road. It's a long-term project. Siemens is very proud of this project. Every time that the president of Siemens Canada speaks to New Brunswick, and maybe elsewhere, he often speaks about the Shediac project as a very innovative project, very avant-garde, and that Shediac could be the potential to become the first town that is net zero in New Brunswick and maybe in Canada. So the initiative here, phase 2, is how can we capitalize on all that lovely publicity that we've had, on the great progress that we've seen. We see solar panels here frequently in town. How can we go to the next step? And that's in consultation with the SGIN. It's a network that represents the industry nationally, but it's based
out of New Brunswick, so they're close to us. So we were able to involve them in the process. So Siemens, will continue to collaborate with the town of Shediac, and NB Power, of course, support this initiative. So we submitted like a request. So the total project to develop the plan for phase 2 and what the town of Shediac net zero could look like in the future. It's a project of $247,000. We already received confirmation from the province for a certain amount, so we're waiting a confirmation from the federal government, and the municipality would be asked to contribute $25,000 to proceed with the project. So the resolution, the motion in front of you would be to accept, to make this investment for phase 2. And those funds would come from your special projects accounts from the council. So question. Motion, Councilor Després. Whereas the town of Shediac is a leader for the project of net zero municipality, showing our commitment towards the sustainability while contributing to national effort to fight climate change, whereas the municipality started discussion with many partners to launch phase 2 of the net zero project. Be it resolved that the municipal council approved a funding of $25,000 under the condition that the Atlantic, the COA approved the project presented by the administration of the town of Shediac. The fund comes from 12-8253 special project of the council. I shall move. Moved by Councillor Joel Després, seconded by Councillor Émile O'Brien. Questions on the motion? Councillor Paul Boudreau. From what I understand, I have no problem with this request, 25,000. Would you put it like at the condition that the other partners come to the table? There's one partner that confirmed, and the other one we're just waiting to hear back. This is for the ACOA. So the project shortfall 222,000. So 25. So how much money will be missing if the others do not come to the table? So when you look at the project shortfall, because it involves only like because we got the confirmation for profit 30%. We're waiting to hear back from ACOA. So we thought it would be good to have a motion this evening. So if this motion is clear, if the ACOA goes forward, the fund gives us the fund, we will be able to pay the 25,000, make the file go through. So if the ACOA does not come to the table, we will not pay. We will not spend the funds. So that is the motion on the table. So if ACOA is here, everyone contributed in the pot. If the ACOA does come to the table, we're not investing like a 25,000. Thank you very much. I have another question. If this one, well, we did not vote yet. So all in favor signify saying aye. Against nay. Carried. No nominations to committee. And next thing is the adjournment. So, Councilor Paul, you want something? So what we voted, like 15.1 is clear, like as restricted to my knowledge, like the request was on. That request is dead forever. I just wanted to make sure. Councilor Mr. Mayor, at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that Mr. CEO, like we had mentioned that we would have some session for the budget session, and I know we were sent some dates and there's some conflicts. I would encourage someone to take a decision somewhere, like to decide on a date, because even people like who are retired, like they're busy, and those who are working are still even more busy than people who are retired. I need to move the adjournment. Councilor Janice Cormier. I saw her first. Have a good evening.